Good afternoon, y'all. Thank you for coming out for Merchandise Mondays. I can't even talk, y'all. It's been a very busy weekend. And today we have part two. Miss Candis Johnson said she had to come back in the box, y'all. She was like, no, we didn't touch on some things. And like we said, she got to clean up the house and clean up the credit stuff going on. So she wanted to come back on the credit side and give us a little bit more information about what exactly is going on with that. Is this not working? I'm sorry. I'm trying to do two things at one time. I guess it's not going to do it. So it is. Oh, I see what it said. Will not connect to the network. Okay. So basically what I wanted to do was bring you back on. I appreciate you so very much for coming back, girlfriend. We got to talking afterward. It was like, but wait, you didn't talk about that. You didn't talk about that. So the phenomenal Candis Johnson is back for the credit side of her business. So as they say, let's jump right on in here. So last week you talked about don't claim bankruptcy. So I want you to explain why not.
So first, thank you for having me again.
Yeah.
It's an honor and a pleasure. But getting to the meats and potatoes of the message or of the show. So when you declare bankruptcy or file bankruptcy, there are a lot of cons more so than pros. One of the first cons is the bankruptcy and everything you put in the bankruptcy is still on your credit report.
Yeah.
Okay. Second, when you file bankruptcy, once you're discharged, and this does not happen to everyone, let me say that up front. However, it has happened to numerous amount of my clients. When you file bankruptcy and once you're discharged, there's a possibility that a third-party collection company can come after the debt and come after you to try to regain payment for that debt. And that's whether you do a 7 or Chapter 13. More so with Chapter 13s than Chapter 7s. Because some people don't fully pay or may not fully get discharged. And if that happens, a judge is not going to grant you another declaration of bankruptcy, at least for 7 years, I believe.
Yeah.
Then thirdly, also your federal tax return can be taken. So basically they're trying to recoup the funds that was lost in that bankruptcy in order to try to make themselves as whole as possible. Another thing that ends up happening with bankruptcy that a lot of people don't understand is that it's almost as though that you have lost credibility, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
A lot of times you go to purchase a new car, and I know that there have been some programs that have been revamped since COVID and dealing with people who declare bankruptcy during COVID or right before, right after. And that's a good thing. However, it doesn't necessarily negate the fact that it happened because it's still on your credit report.
Right.
Then you're also paying higher interest rates. Okay. I did want to touch base about the interest rates and dealing with bankruptcy and just your credit and your credit score overall. There has been a new law or rule that has been put into place and effective that actually people with lower credit scores are more likely to get approved for a home loan now. And it's okay in its place, but again, everything has its pros and cons. The one thing that we want to understand is that when we get into those mortgage loans, a lot of times that loan can be sold. So no, you don't have a fixed interest rate. So with a lower credit score means a higher interest rate. So you may start off at that purchasing point with a lower credit score to be able to utilize less funds, or depending on if and what home loan program you may utilize to purchase your home. Whether it be like a first time home buyers program or a veterans program and different things like that. And veterans kind of run under a whole different entity of its own.
Totally.
So, a lot of things don't really touch the surface with the veteran loans, but then there are some things that do, and a credit score can be a factor in that matter. Also, when you file bankruptcy, we know debt collectors are not supposed to contact anyone in reference to debt that has been placed into that bankruptcy. Again, whether it be Chapter 7 or Chapter 13. However, you do have some debt collectors that still call. I did not file bankruptcy. However, when I used to work in the pharmaceutical field, a ex-coworker had utilized me, I guess, as a reference. And they was blowing my phone up. Now, this was before I knew about credit.
Right.
So I told her, I'm like, hey, girl, I'm like, these people calling me. She like, I don't know why I filed bankruptcy. So now that I am on the other side of that and wearing the hat of credit and being able to vocalize and educate people about that, when a debt collector calls, there is one statement that you need to make to them. Hi, this is company ABC. Can we please speak to John Doe? This is he. John Doe, please tell us, or please verify, or please whatever. Your response should not be to hang up. Your response should be, I don't verify my personal information over the phone. Cease and desist.
Ooh.
Couple things that does is it stops the targeted debt collection calls.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing it does is it protects you under the rights of the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And at that point of time, you want to make sure that you write down that person's name, telephone number, date, time, and the name of the company that's calling. Because what you can then at that time do, if they call back, you can pursue other remedies legally.
Okay, so is that a statement you would make only if you file bankruptcy, or in other words, like I had paid off a debt, mm-hmm. and they were still calling me, and I was like, why are you calling me? Call your customer. I paid your customer. So what they had did was bought the debt mm-hmm. from the customer, but the customer was calling me along with them. So I made the deal with the customer.
Got you. So 2 things with that question. That's a 2-part answer. One is not just with bankruptcy, it's with any third-party debt collection. 2, that's your situation of what happened with the original debtor and the third-party collector contacting you is against the law. It's considered double dipping. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. They've already sold the debt. But here's one thing that I want the viewers to know with their rights. One, under the laws of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, you don't owe a third-party collection company anything. Mm-hmm, Here's mm-hmm. why. Let's say I borrowed $20 from you, and I maybe paid you back $10. So then your sister calls me and says, hey, Candis, I need the $10 that you owe Stella. Who would I pay that money to?
Stella.
Okay. And why would that be?
Because you didn't make the deal with the sister.
Bingo. However, it's a catch-22 to that as well. Mm-hmm. The catch-22 to that is I don't owe you either. Because your sister purchased the debt. You got paid 4 times on this debt.
Ah, okay.
You got paid when I paid half of that loan back. You got paid when your sister purchased the debt. You got paid on the insurance when you filed a claim for a loss. Then you also got paid or was able to deduct some way from your taxes, and you filed it as a loss. So you've collected well over the $20 that I owed you. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And even though that debt is being purchased for pennies on a dollar, it still have gained some kind of I guess, profit in behind the other payments that you've received or claims. Wow. So, people, I'm not telling you not to pay your bills, but what I am telling you is to know your rights, understand how to be able to resolve an issue responsibly and legally.
So there's another bankruptcy question that I had, and that is, and this is something that someone said happened, and it's years ago, but it still happened. She basically did not, when she filed for bankruptcy, she put, they tell you to put all your debt down that you have. She put her car on there, but she contacted the company that she was doing it and said that she was going to continue to pay for the car.
Okay.
She continued to pay for the car, but they came and got the car 3 months after the discharge. So how does that work?
So basically what ended up happening was she defaulted on the agreement. Not the original car loan, but the agreement with the bankruptcy. So basically, to put it in layman's terms, if I tell you I borrowed $300 from you, and I tell you, hey Stella, I know I gave you a date of May 1st to have that debt paid back to you. However, I can't make it until July 1st. And I decide that I'm not going to pay you. I'm going to file bankruptcy. So now that I've filed bankruptcy, I've put Stella into that bankruptcy. And I said, instead of following the agreement of the bankruptcy, I'm going to follow my own will, my own way, and pay Stella. But Stella want to be greedy. So Stella decides that she's not even going to see that I've paid. She's not even going to acknowledge that I've paid that debt. So now she's going to try to garnish my wages for that $300. So basically what she did was she went, instead of following the agreement of the bankruptcy, she did what she wanted to do. And by law, they have to follow the rules of what the bankruptcy tells them to do.
Oh, so her continuing making payments meant nothing.
Correct.
Okay, because like you said, that's like going in her own way. It seemed like her attorney should have told her yay or nay on that. Cause it's like, that's just like.
So we don't know for sure if she consulted with the attorney.
Yeah.
And then also, I have attorney friends. I love all of y'all, but just being honest, sometimes attorneys are attorneys, but when that's not their lane of actual practice and what they do every day, they need a helping hand. They may be versed with law, but unfortunately sometimes communication could be missed.
Yeah.
So we don't know if that was a fact, whether she even communicated with the attorney to see what would be her best option at hand.
Right.
So I don't really want to jump the gun to, say that the attorney did not advise properly or at all, because we don't know.
Right. Because when she said it to me, I was like, you still paid it, so why did you put it on the list?
So that's just like, there was a gentleman who one of my business partners had as a client. He ended up with a repo on his credit report. And what ended up happening with that, the vehicle was in his wife's name. Unfortunately, the wife died. He had maybe 3 or 4 car payments left on that car note. He worked third shift, 11 at night or p.m. until 7 a.m. And when he came out, the car was gone. So he called to report the car stolen, and the police let him know that the car was not stolen, it was repoed. So he contacted the finance company, and what they explained to him, which is a legal process, the death certificate had surfaced at this point. And even though he paid the car note that month, he was not within legal possession of the car because he had no entitlement. There was never a will or a trust that was given directive for him to keep the car. There was no kind of maybe co-assignment in order to show that he had part ownership of the vehicle. So, unfortunate circumstance for him, he would have had to pay for the car all over again.
Yeah, because I think what deadheading is
Correct.
I had that issue with my dad. About past life insurance, but trust and living wills and things of that nature. Because people won't laugh at me when I tell them I ain't frying no fish, but I ain't frying no fish. I'm not gonna have no GoFundMe account. I keep telling y'all time and time again. It's time to cover, y'all. It's time to cover. Be smart about it. You don't have to, just because you have insurance on your job does not mean that you're going to die while you're on your job, and you need outside insurance to cover you and your family. The older you get, the more expensive it gets. So that's something that you just got to think about. It's not a bad thing, or people just trying to take your money and this and the other, because at the end of the day, we all have an expiration date. We
Absolutely.
all do. There is no ifs and buts, possibilities. We all have it, and we need to cover ourselves and our children to make sure that we don't have to fry fish, put up a GoFundMe account, and ask for strangers to help pay for your loved one. So I'm sorry. I get on that soapbox. It's like
awesome.
you have to understand it and know that life insurance is for the living as well, to borrow off of some of those policy in time of need. That's a little savings account, that you can have that collects interest. Some people just don't get it, and it's okay. But understand this: if you can spend $2,000 or $3,000 on the weekend and then on that quick weave and all that other stuff, you need to cover your family. Ain't nobody trying to tell you what to do. I'm just trying to tell you what to do. But anyway, so talk about the trust and the living will and all of that, because I still want, I need that in my life, because just because it's me don't mean that I don't have possessions that need to be in
Distributed properly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one thing I do want to also say, when you are looking up your life insurance policies, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you understand the clauses. That is very important, because there's so many people who have paid and invested into life insurance, and unfortunately, because of certain health conditions, things that have developed or occurred after acquiring the policy, they can't get a payout. So, be very smart with reading the clauses and understanding the lingo or the verbiage in the clauses. But as far as a living will and trust, I tell you, if you only have a pair of shoes that needs to be distributed properly, make sure you have it. It is so important, because when you have debt, one thing that debt collectors do is do what you call a skip trace asset search. And under that skip trace asset search, when you have assets, it shows up public record. However, you can avoid that, or I guess protect that, should I say. And you can protect it by placing your assets into a trust. There's over maybe 33 different kinds of trusts: pet trust, irrevocable trust, revocable trust, housing trust. It's so many different kinds of trusts, and I don't really want to get into the different kinds because it's a long list. Yeah, it's very detailed. But making sure that you protect your assets, whether it be a home, whether it be a vehicle, bank accounts, savings accounts, different valuable assets that you have acquired or may acquire over time. Even if you had your LLC, believe it or not, you want to protect that stuff into a trust. And it kind of gets a little deep with how you want to do that, whether it's a regular LLC or a holding LLC. You want to make sure that that stuff is protected. And see, the good thing about that is sometimes people don't want to be found. And for whatever their reasoning is, putting your home inside of a LLC, one, is a way to help you not get found. However, if you have purchased a home, you don't want to transfer it to a holding LLC. You want to keep it in your personalized legal name. You want to make sure you put it and back it in a trust. The one thing that I do love about trust that a lot of people could have saved thousands of dollars on is it helps you from probate court. You can have a will, but if you have a will that's not bagged in a trust, anyone can go to court and contest that will. So mama and daddy left you a car, mama and daddy left me a house. I say, no, mama and daddy left me the house and the car. So because mom and daddy didn't put the will in a trust, I'm going to take you to court now to probate. And I'm going to contest the fact that you were supposed to get any belongings. However, if I had that will back into the trust, it basically is the last say so. It's the dry ink on the dotted line. I can't contest that. I can't take you to probate court. So those are really, really two major items and documents that you need in order to make sure that your family is protected. Because when people die, people act a fool.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
And, you know, people can argue, say whatever they want to say, but once this is in black and white, why would I argue with you?
Right.
It's nothing you can do. It's nothing I can do unless if I just take possession of the asset and decide to hand it over to you.
Right.
You know, other than that, there's nothing. So I'm not going to argue with you about it.
So if a person wanted to get started with that, where would they start with getting, well, past the living will? Because you can get them anywhere. But how would they start that? How would they get, no matter how big or how small, how would they start off with getting a trust?
So you can contact an attorney to get a trust. One thing that I will say is contacting an attorney can be very expensive. And sometimes when it comes time for you to make changes, adjustments, or amendments to that will and trust, it can become costly as well. So just imagine me adjusting or amending my will and trust versus Bill Gates or somebody. You know, it can get upwards to thousands of dollars. Another way that you can also get a living will and trust is by contacting myself. I do offer that as a service as well.
Girl, raise your hand on that. I'll be calling you, girl. I didn't know. Look, I'm getting all upset. Like, dang, thousands of dollars. Yeah, I don't know if I want that. And that's probably a reason why a lot of people, if they knew how to do it, was that, you know, that with itself. It's like, okay, this is just too much. You know, I don't want to deal with that. Because the living will, when they offer it in the hospital to you, you know, they give you a full packet, but you just got to get it notarized and make sure that it's put in a proper place.
Sorry to cut you off. The best place that you want to do is file with your clerk of court.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just a notarized thing. You have to go to and file it with the clerk.
So you can't just, you know, stick it in a safe somewhere. But guess what? If that safe catch on fire, God forbid, who knows what happened? Right. So filing it with your local clerk, not Cuyahoga, but your local clerk of court's office is where you want to file it.
Okay. That's like amazing, girl. Ooh. when you learn some stuff, you know, because we hear about a lot of stuff, but because that's just like with the insurance thing. There are so many daggone new things that's going on that I never in a million years knew, especially like the universal life for the kids. You pay until they're 20 and then they're covered for the rest of their life. And you don't pay another dime and it collects interest. I'm like, you know, I'm telling Tyra Thompson State Farm Agency in North Royalty, 440-628-8488. I'm telling you, I've learned so much about different insurances, and it's not about just putting you in the ground or doing cremation. It is so many different things with it. Well, girlfriend, I want to thank you again for the knowledge, the nuggets, and the jewels that you put on us today. I appreciate that because I didn't know. And when you wanted to follow up with it, I was like, okay, yeah, next week, let's do it. You know, because at the end of the day, we are wanting to be knowledgeable of how to protect ourselves, our assets, our families, and making sure that things are done properly, not just because we think it's going to happen later. We all are not promised tomorrow, let alone next year and getting old. You know, I tell people I'm old all the time, and I'm glad I'm where I'm at and still want to live some more. So y'all, I want to thank y'all so very much for coming in here today on Merchandise Monday, and Miss Candis Johnson giving us some more stuff to clean up our houses and our credit and companies. I forgot because she does commercial stuff too, y'all. So thank y'all so very much. We won't see you next week because it's the holiday. So we'll see y'all in June. Peace.